Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. It's the Boat Show edition of Boomer Life this evening, and a couple of guests from, well, both working out of Granville Island. Lawrence Franchek is a specialty yacht sales owner, and of course has been selling yachts since he was, what, 14?
14.
I love accomplished people. It's just so much fun to sit around with them. And Christoph Marty is with Simply Sailing down there on Granville Island. Guys, it may sound like a silly question to you, but, you know, I get to ask the odd silly question on Boomer Life. It's part of the job. If a person wants to become a boater or just check it out and they don't swim, are they really going in the wrong direction here? How important is being a swimmer to enjoying boating?
You don't need to know how to swim in order to enjoy boating. You're wearing a PFD at all times, personal flotation device. So if you fall in the water and that fires off as a protection device and stops you from sinking, you don't need to swim.
Christoph, you see people who come down for a half-day adventure on the water. You give them a chance to get a taste. Do some non-swimmers come to you, and do they kind of pull you aside and go, I hope it's still okay if you'll take me out, but I don't swim?
You're absolutely right, and we talked about that with our instructors, and it is true. We take people out for half a day, no commitments. You just come, check it out, get on the water, have a fun day,
sure,
and then hopefully get involved. And yes, as Lawrence was saying, we wear these life jackets, and nowadays they're light, they're self-inflating. If somebody falls in, we'll keep them afloat. In fact, they're such that you can't even swim much. You can just sort of bob in the water, and then the boat will come back and pick you up again.
Right.
Now, the idea is not to fall in the first place.
Well, that's very true. But then again, you know, there are all sorts of barriers that people create for themselves sometimes. Yes. Now, I can remember, again, going back to the 70s when I first moved to British Columbia to the West Coast. I'd never seen or experienced salt water the way we do on a daily basis here, and I found the ocean absolutely terrifying. It was just so bloody big. And you know, full. And yet, Lawrence, you said that on lakes, more intense weather can happen on a lake than on the open ocean. Explain, please.
Well, on the ocean, it's a little bit of a steady wind that's building up, and the storm comes in if there is one that you're approaching, and it's steady winds. On a lake, the winds can come up so quickly. You see a little flutter off the water, and then suddenly you have 30 knots of wind hitting you without any notice. And that's the difference. Open ocean sailing, you pretty well know what you're getting into before you even start the day. On the lakes, it's completely different. It can come up at any moment.
Right. Christoph, when Tina Moberg from Sailing BC, the executive director, was here, we talked about this whole wind thing. Yeah. Because she said, as a teacher, and you're a teacher too, wind is about as important a lesson that you'll ever learn, no matter what type of boat you end up owning, even if you never do, if you just go out for the odd fishing trip. The more you can learn about the wind, the better and more comfortable you will be on the water. So what's with the wind?
Well, that's correct. The wind is important for sailboats, of course, but imagine you're on a big power boat, you're coming back into a dock. The wind will want to push the boat one way or another. If you're kayaking, the wind is important.
Oh, boy, is it ever.
Yeah, the waves get
even in False Creek, the wind in a kayak can be pretty heavy.
Or in a paddleboard, whatever boating you do, you want to know about the wind, and the beauty is, even if you're just down in the water, have a look what it does. What does a summer afternoon look like?
Right.
You get winds coming off the water, or how does it look like when a front comes in and the weather changes? And just like Lawrence was saying, it is nice here. We can see that we get actually great weather forecasts. So We're not getting surprised by the big ocean and the big winds. We actually know in advance what's likely going to happen in here in BC. In the Gulf Islands.
Every 4 hours, there's an accurate weather forecast that you can listen to on your VHF, and it will advise you what kind of weather fronts and what the windage is going to be in different areas of all up and down the coast.
Is that a Transport Canada thing?
Yes, it is.
Also, the government every 4 hours updates the weather conditions. So I guess when you're watching the 6 o'clock news and the weather person comes on and talks about fronts coming in from northern Vancouver Island down the strait and all the rest of that, for a boater,
yeah,
that's all. You're looking at very different bits of information for different reasons than the rest of us are, aren't you?
Yes. That's right. we're looking for the wind.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is nice to say is in the Gulf Islands, we have so many different nooks and crannies and coves. You can actually hide no matter where the wind's coming from. You'll find a spot to hide and be away and sheltered for the night. And then the next day you choose your direction and go where the wind is or where the wind's taking you again.
I had one of your colleagues, and I can't remember because we've had a few from Boating BC in Lawrence, and one of them was talking about the whole notion of just getting away. Because people get away in the summertime. They jump in the RV and head off to Wells Gray, or but he said, the beauty of getting out on your boat, there are no lines.
Yes.
You don't have to keep within you can swerve to the right all day if you want.
Marley Monroe. It's absolutely fantastic, and I never heard it described like that, but it's absolutely true. There are no white or yellow lines. Every day you get up, it's your ocean, it's your oyster. You decide where you'd like to go, what direction, and what speed.
And it's those little coves that you were talking about a second ago, Christoph. That's the excitement. Even though, Lawrence, you've been doing this since you were a squirt, there are still little coves and hidden little places you haven't found yet.
There are more fjords and inlets up and down the coast, so you could spend the rest of your life and you won't even get to a quarter of them.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most exciting, most adventurous, most beautiful terrain anywhere on the planet. And anybody that's boated in BC will agree to that.
Now, you've boated all over the world, Christoph. You're European, and would you back this up? Now, you live here, and you've got a business here, so you're probably going to say the right thing. But tell us the real deal here. It is a fabulous place to live and to boat. Is it as remarkable as many of us who live here think it is?
It actually is. Like, if you compare the Gulf Islands Desolation Sound to other places in the world, like you go down to San Francisco, it's beautiful and they got nice wind, but they don't have any islands to go to. Mm-hmm. They don't have those coves to anchor at night and have a nice meal and a bottle of wine on the boat. It is beautiful. You get white sandy beaches, you can get waterfalls, you get fjords. We got mile-high fjords up north. Mm-hmm. You get glaciers coming into the ocean. You can go in the remote areas such as Vancouver Island, or you can go in a beautiful marina and have dinner at a nice restaurant. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find on the coast of BC.
All right.
I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. I wanted to go back to that trip to Hawaii. You said you're organizing a group who's going to come by sailboat from Hawaii back to Vancouver.
That's correct.
What size boat and how many people on board?
It's a 47-foot Beneteau. One of the boats actually is competing in the race that's happening to Hawaii, and we thought we'll have to bring the boat back, and we want to get people that want to experience offshore sailing and give them a chance to explore that. And you're saying a lot of bucket items on many boomers.
Oh, I would think so. That's quite a sailing adventure.
That is. So we're going to be 9 people on the boat.
Okay.
And we'll take about 16 days and sail back from Maui, Lahaina, actually, that is, back to Vancouver.
I've been to the Lahaina Yacht Club many times.
That's where I'll be next week.
Don't ring the bell when you go. Don't ring the bell.
No, you'll be buying drinks for everybody.
You're buying drinks for the house if you do. Remember that, because they'll look at you like, oh, new guy. Hey, see our bell? If you do that, it'll cost you a few bucks. Yeah. So the only thing I'm curious about, if it's a 9-member crew that's bringing this 47-footer from Lahaina back to Vancouver, everybody on a sailboat works, don't they?
That's correct. On a boat I sailed on, there was the slogan by the skipper. He says, everybody trims, everybody drives. So there is nobody just sitting there and doing nothing. And there's anywhere from steering the boat to trimming the sails, cooking. Mm-hmm. There's some less glamorous work and cleaning up again. But everybody, navigation, big, listening to the weather we just talked about.
Sure.
And maybe fixing something I may have broken. So there's always something to do, and there is time to just enjoy as well. Yeah, there is off time. Your watch is off, and you're just enjoying being on the water.
Well, you're on shift work, right?
That's right.
3 on, 6 off, or is it 6
we
on,
do
3 off?
6 on, 6 off in a day, and 4 on, 4 off at night.
Okay. So there's always someone on watch and
that's correct.
Conscious at all times. But you see now, for people, you sell a lot of power boats too, Lawrence. Yes. And for people who prefer power boats, in many cases, it's because they want to just, they want to press a couple of buttons and go for a cruise, and maybe not have everybody on board, and trimming and cleaning and doing all of those. I mean, it's fun. It's part of the sailing experience. I'm not knocking it, Christoph, but other people prefer the sort of more leisurely approach to being on the water.
Absolutely, and it's not just about the leisurely approach. It's also about their time. Some people will have very little minute time to be able to enjoy any activity, and they want to go a little further afield. So you got a powerboat that's doing 20, 30 knots or so. You can get up to Desolation Sound in a day.
Right.
Whereas on a sailboat, that's going to take 2 days to get up there.
Okay.
Now you're up there enjoying a weekend and coming back down, and you've been able to get to further reaches in BC.
Okay. So, again, it's a personal preference.
It is a personal preference.
I want to talk about buying boats, and I want to save that for the next segment because we don't have a lot of time left in this segment. So what time we do have in this one, I want to talk about a change that has happened right across Canada in the last few years. Every person who operates a watercraft of any kind is now required to carry a license. So tell us about the PCOC
card. It's standard equipment. You've got to carry it on board with you. It's like a driver's license. You can't leave it at home.
It's a Powercraft operating certificate?
Card.
A card. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that just it's just basic information that you end up writing the exam. You can do it online. I believe Christoph can confirm it starts at 14 and allows you to use any watercraft that has an engine.
Right. And so, but basically what I think, whoever brought this idea in, I mean, obviously a bureaucrat must have been involved because everybody has to do it now. But ultimately,
it makes sense.
It does, because now it guarantees that even a 12-year-old can go online and go to the website, do the test.
Yes.
But if you pass the test, that means you know a certain ultra basic bit of stuff about being on the water. And there's nothing wrong with that.
It starts building confidence in yourself.
Sure.
And from that point on, you are now going to grow into the industry because now somebody said, yes, you've achieved this level, and now let's carry on. Let's learn more.
Christoph, when people come to Simply Sailing to take lessons or to do the half-day trial adventure, and they don't have one of these cards or certificates or whatever, can they, in the course of taking a sailing program, can you become accredited with this card as part of passing the course?
Absolutely. We offer that in every course. And going with Modern Times, we're also gone online with it. So if people come, they want to spend and maximize their time on the water, they still would like to get this card. We work together with another company that offers this online, and you can do that in a 3-hour evening at home.
Right. And Lawrence, you were talking earlier about some people buying boats who really don't know much about running them, but know they want one.
Yes.
And obviously those people are not likely to have their operator's card either. So again, with the boat comes instructions, and I would assume part of the instruction process is getting your card.
And you get your card, and you have a 5-day fully qualified skipper, exactly like Christoph. In fact, he's taking out a customer and friend of mine at the end of August, early September, out on a new 50-footer for 5 days, and going to be teaching him everything about the boat.
So again, we'll get into details about what type of boat and costs and all that kind of stuff. But even if you don't have a lot of boating in your background and you have this hunger to get out there and become a boater, well, that's not half as difficult a process as we might imagine it to be.
No, it isn't. Give me any person that's never boated before 3 hours of their uninterrupted time, and I can teach them how to dock any boat by themselves. The end, I actually push them off. They're by themselves. They'll bring it in by themselves and put it onto the dock.
Okay.
The longer process is teach them how to sail the boat, anchoring, coastal navigation, and so on. And that's where I'll leave it to an expert who practices in that field. And Christoph would be a perfect synergy to specialty yachts.
We talked when Tina was here. She talked about little kids. Little kids, like you started when you were a squirt, and little kids in Vancouver, especially here on the water, they start at 5 and 6 years old, and by the time you were 15 when you first started. You were a late comer to the game.
I was a late starter, but here is a story from my family. My son was born 3.5 years ago, and when he was 3 months old, we put him down in our 30-foot sailboat, bought a hammock, put him in a hammock, and he was happy. He was just big smile, playing a hammock. And so he got a bit of head start on me, and he asks always now about going to the boat. I want to go to the boat, and he's only 3.5 years old. And it's a great activity to do with your family because everybody can be involved.
Right. And, of course, if he has been a member of the boating family since age 3 months, there's no fear. This is just part of his daily life, and it's as commonplace as going to the store for an ice cream cone.
That's right.
I had a Davidson 9-foot sailing dinghy growing up, and I remember telling my friends this story. We were teenagers at that point, and I was saying, well, it was 8 or 9 that I was when my father first taught me how to capsize the boat. And I was very scared that first time.
Well,
all
no
this
kidding.
cold water coming in the boat, and the boat's going over on its side. And he taught me how to right it and bail the boat out and keep sailing. And my parents came in, Mom and Dad, right after that, overhearing the story, and they interrupted me and they said, "I'm sorry, Lawrence, you weren't 8 or 9, you were 3.5."
Holy cow!
And I remember, saying, "I want to do it again."
Same age as Christoph's little guy. Well, holy smokes! That's the 9-foot. Is that the kind with the drop keel?
Yes, it had a centerboard down there, a dagger board to steer the boat, aluminum mast. It was fantastic.
And you're 3.5, and you're flipping this thing.
Yes, and riding it again. Yeah,
that's amazing.
And I went all over the place for that boat. I used to have growing up in Eagle Harbor, there was two small islands, seal islands, just off the inner harbor there. And I used to go out with the boat for the weekend. I'd carry it up on the shoreline with my friend, and we'd have log forts, not tree forts, they're just logs that had been blown up on this barren
driftwood.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd make a fort out of that, and we had that going for about 3 or 4 years.
So as we were just talking earlier about how on bucket lists and for boomers and people who might have really sort of skirted the boating idea for most of their adult lives, but now find themselves going, well, this could be time. So we've already established that it's never too late, and clearly with these stories and this evidence in front of us, it's obviously never too early either.
It is never too early.
Our guests are from Boating BC. They are Lawrence Franchek and Christoph Marty. I'm Sterling Fox. This is Boomer Life and the Boat Show, and we'll be right back.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.